What's up, YouTube? We're gonna talk about the fights last night. I think I'm gonna do a two-in-one special because I don't have too much to say about either main event. That's the Showtime main event. That was Tszyu and Ocampo, and we also want to talk about real quick Regis Prograis versus Zorrilla, which I think I want to start with the Prograis fight. So first and foremost, Regis looked like Rugaru, whatever the hell you want to call him, looked like straight trash last night. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he's getting a little older in terms of age. So if I'm going to break down the fight, I think it's pretty simple. It seemed that Regis couldn't get through a simple jab. And that's really what bothered him the whole entire fight. That and the fact that Zaria was on his bicycle the whole time. So Regis getting into positions he normally likes to get into, just throw his left hand, didn't happen. Another couple things in that fight. It wasn't really the most entertaining fight I've seen in my life. I mean, I watched the whole thing. Regis got dropped in the first round, which they officially didn't count, which is some bullshit. Because if you look at the replay, Zaria landed a good right hand, I think, on literally the face of Regis, and Regis fell, and he literally held on to Zaria before he got dropped. That was the first round, and that sort of set the tone of the whole fight. Round two came along. Zaria was controlling the distance with his jab. Regis was struggling to get in. Round three came in. It was more of the same until Regis managed to get in there and land an overhand left, which then kept Zaria from really exchanging. But I see people saying it was because of Regis' power, and I just think it's his type of fighting style. If you saw this guy against Arnold Barboza, he did the same exact thing. Not the bicycle part, but like throw a limited amount of punches. He wouldn't throw. And that's sort of what happened through the entire half of the middle of the fight, where Regis was trying to get in. Zaria was landing a couple jabs, but really not throwing anything significant after he got knocked down. And that was literally rounds, what? Rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. The whole fight was that way. Mind you, it wasn't the most entertaining, but we're talking how you score a fight, and we score a fight based on ring generalship, who's controlling the fight, who's landing the cleaner shots. You could argue Zaria was doing a lot of that. Chris Mannix had a decent scorecard, which I think was representative of the fight. It was a fair scorecard. I think that, to be 100% with you, there's no other way you should have scored that. 114, 113, either guy was fair. I think the scorecards were bullshit. 118, 109, 117, 110 did not represent what happened in that fight. It wasn't the most pretty thing ever. Regis looked like crap. Zorrilla arguably should have gotten a draw, but it is what it is. It's boxing. Regis Prograis is going next to fight Jack Catterall, which I would have said before yesterday Jack was 50-50. I'm thinking the 60-40 Jack. I think Jack might take it, especially in the United Kingdom. So that's probably the route they're going to go with that. I have nothing else to say aside from Regis looked like crap. A little jab kept them at bay. If Jack can do a jab while following it up, I think Regis is going to have a long night ahead of him in the UK later this year. Zorrilla did real good, though. All right, going back, we're going to switch. I'm going to just do a 2-in-1 special here. We're going to talk about Tszyu versus Ocampo. Tszyu, I mean, people in America never seen him until he signed with PBC, with his first fight being Terrell Goucher, where Terrell dropped him, and then Tim dominated the rest of the fight. Then he fought Tony Harrison, whooped Tony Harrison, finally. And then last night he fought the same guy, Sebastian Fundora, fought Ocampos, and Spence also fought him at welterweight. So here's the thing. Fundora couldn't KO Ocampos, and it took 12 rounds of him going through it. Mind you, I never thought highly of Fundora, but people like to give him that game. I just think he's a lanky 154-pounder who doesn't know his size. That's a different story. Spence is Spence, and Spence of 2017, 2016 was a beast. I don't think Spence is all that today after the car crash and a bunch of other things he's been doing. But that was the Spence of 2016 who stopped him in a round. Now we're talking Tszyu at 154 pounds. Years later, after Ocampo went the distance with Fundora, got knocked out in one round. Stylistically, the fight, there's nothing much to break down aside from Tszyu has fucking power at 154. That said, Showtime is pushing Tszyu versus Jamal Charlo sometime in October, it seems, based on how they were talking with Al Bernstein, Abner Mars, and Morrow, and Brian Custard. I have thoughts, which is kind of what more of that section comes down, because not much to break down in the fight. Jamal Charlo's last fight was Brian Castano versus the rematch. Jermell Charlo looked good, but since then he broke his hand and hasn't been in the ring for over 13 months. It's been over a year. That does not bode well for him. 2, he injured his hand. Going straight into a Tszyu fight is the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my life. 3, he has balls if he does go straight into a Tszyu fight. Stylistically, I think people are doubting Tszyu a little bit. They're forgetting that John Jackson, the son of the legend Jackson, I believe, was giving Jermell hell. Or Jermall, I forget the 154 one. Whatever Charlo's at 154, was giving him hell until Charlo KO'd him. People also like to forget Brian Castano in both fights was giving that man hell. And arguably should have beat Jermall the first time. People also like to forget that Tony Harrison outboxed Charlo at 154. Listen, Charlo's a beast. He unified all the belts. Straight up gangster. But you can't sleep on Tszyu. Tszyu's been active. Tszyu's been constantly improving fight by fight. Tszyu has real world power. Tszyu is motivated. You cannot sleep on this fight. Stylistically, if Charlo would have been fresh, if Charlo wouldn't have this injury, I'd say Charlo would probably win. I think Charlo with his jab, his experience, his power, would be more than enough to keep Tim at bay. But we're talking a Charlo that's going directly into his Tszyu fight. This man needs a tune-up. There's no way in hell you're going to go in there and break out a new hand and try it on Tszyu, coming forward at you 90 miles an hour with raw power such as that. Listen, right now, it's a 50-50 fight. After the Harrison fight, I thought Charlo would have won. By this point, he hasn't been in the ring for over a year, has hand injury, and Tszyu's motivated. I just have to say, if we get Charlo versus Tszyu next, don't be surprised Tszyu beats that ass. Because it's just, everything is not looking right. And just can't. Tszyu looks kind of special, man. He looks really special at 154. And I know Charlo's a real special guy too, but like, everything's not boding well for you, man. You need a tune-up, but the belts are going to force you to mandate it. If I were Charlo, I'd give away to WBO, get a tune-up, and then unify. 2-time undisputed 154-pounder. Or just move up. Because what's the point? Anyways, those are just my 2 cents, 2 thoughts. 7 minutes in, you get a 2-in-1 special. Don't forget to subscribe. It's all I got to say about these fights. Really nothing much more to say. I mean, Tszyu versus Ocampo was a 1-round KO, which was awesome to see. Really just setting up the Charlo fight. Prograis versus Zaria was a really boring fight where Prograis kind of got exposed for not being able to corner a guy, not being able to maneuver his way in. And nothing too much exciting. I'll see you guys next week when we talk about more fights. Peace.